Hi, welcome to another edition of Chasing the Checkers. It's the USSA Pro Stars Series opportunity to talk to some of the unique personalities and individuals that make the sport of ice oval racing go. And tonight, I'm just happy as heck to have some time to chat with Dustin Wahl from Wahl Brothers Racing. Dustin's a former racer, now so involved in the products industry when it comes to ice oval racing, and has some interesting insight into our sport and where we're going from here. So Dustin, welcome. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, Brett.
Dustin and I have a little bit of a history, so if this goes off track every once in a while, forgive us. Speaking of history, for those that don't know your racing history, tell us a little bit about it. When you started, classes you raced, when you retired.
I guess I started in it would have been the spring of 2000. Andy Moyle was racing a 440 fan at the time, and dad was just retiring. My dad's Dave was just retiring that day, actually. And about 2 weeks prior, he asked, well, do you want to try racing? Because he never would let me race anything before, because he was always gone racing, and he didn't want me to race. And I was determined that I was going to race. And it just so happened that he finally gave in that day, and Andy Moyle was, nice enough to borrow me a sled. And I remember it was Saturday. We got to run like one heat race was all that was. It was just me and another guy, and I didn't win. And I asked him what I was doing wrong, and he told me, well, you're not even leaning, and you got to hold the throttle on longer, and like all this. And I was like, okay. Well, then the next day it was like, I don't remember what temperature was, but I remember you had to drive through like a foot of water to get to the racetrack. It was so warm. And it was just me and Mike Poach was his name actually at the time. And I ended up racing with him for years later than that. And anyways, I somehow won the race. And so that was the beginning of it. And then that was the spring of 2000, I believe it was. And so that kind of got the ball rolling. And then from there, it was kind of a quick, things happened really fast. It seemed like I was jumping classes, like really probably too fast, I would say, looking back. But and then ended up racing until I believe it was just the third year, I think, now that I haven't raced. So,
Okay. So the spring race you're talking about, Beauce Jour?
Yep.
Yeah, the March race up there. Okay.
Yep.
Because really, from where you live, that's almost your home track, right?
Yeah, for sure. So we are basically like where my parents live. It's like if you go straight north of their house, it's like 7 miles to the border. You're right. We're right there at the border. So especially this time of year with, COVID and everything, it's so weird not being able to go up there, and see our friends and stuff. And, but Beauce Jour, I believe it's just over 2 hours, I think, to the track, and that's including stopping at the border and all that stuff. So, that's definitely my home track. And I've been going there since forever that I can remember. And so many friends there and stuff. And that was always, a real special track for me there.
Sure. How soon after you started sled racing did you start car racing? Because I know that's a big part of your life still today, right?
Yeah. We're getting excited, getting ready for that now too. So, Tom and Blaine have been having all the fun all the time. So now I get to have fun again, and I have a cage around my head. So that's a good thing. My wife is happy. My mom's happy. So that's good. But
we're gonna talk about that in a minute.
So no, I didn't start racing cars until it would have been the year I graduated high school, so 2004. And I remember, because we had the car for a few years, and it was kind of just for fun. It was a 1992 Mercury Tracer 4-cylinder, and we put a roll cage in it and went racing, and then things kind of escalated, and I was running like 30 some races a year with the thing, but me and my buddies would go racing and, race for nothing, but we're having a great time. And I look back and think about how stupid it was, all the money I spent going racing, but I wouldn't replace all those memories I have with my buddies for the world. That was a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your best ice oval racing memory?
Boy, best ice oval racing. I don't know, that first win there, that would be pretty tough to top that one. But I mean, I was so fortunate, like that I won so many. I think we won pretty much everywhere, other than Wausau. I don't know why I never ever could win in Wausau, and I threw a couple away there that I should have won. And I don't know. And there's even some races that, you know, I didn't win, that you come from so far back and stuff, and you look back and think, you know, that was awesome too, you know. So I guess if I had to pick though, you know, that first race, you know, yeah, I'd just driven a trail sled before, and I'd always watch my dad. And I remember I used to set a track up out in the field, and I'd be out there and just doing lap after lap after lap. And that was before cell phones, so my mom couldn't show my dad, who was gone racing, you know, and didn't see me doing this, that I was out there every night doing all these laps. And I mean, it was just for fun because, you know, obviously I wanted to race, but you know, so it's like my whole life to that point, I had dreamed about racing. So I guess the first time I ever raced and I won, that was probably the highlight. And I mean, I've been to the track my whole life,
right?
But as soon as you are on the sled and you get on the track, it does not look the same. I remember the first time I went to Eagle River and you didn't get testing or anything. You got on the sled and you had to qualify, and there was a full field of other guys on the same sled you had, you know,
yep,
racing stock racing. And like you had to get top 4 to get in there. And I remember just being so intimidated by the walls and everything. And it's like, I've been there before, and like, you don't realize it until you're actually out there. So it's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So in the past couple of years, you've really transitioned from the racer mode to almost like an ownership standpoint. I know that there's, how do I want to say this? I guess really what I find most interesting now, let me just set this up here a little bit, is I feel like there's a trend beginning where teams are owning premier sleds, champ sleds, those types of things, and then bringing in individuals to drive them. You know, Wahl Brothers Racing is showing up at the track now with 2 sleds and 2 drivers. You've got Tom Olson coming from Lower Wisconsin. You have Blaine Stevenson, and I didn't even know this until we talked earlier that technically Blaine's sled is now owned by Wahl Brothers, and he's kind of racing for you. There's Dale Loritz over in the Green Bay area, and he's got Matt Gady driving for him. And really, it's the first start, I think, of a new direction in ice oval racing, because up until this point, at least in recent past, most have been family-run organizations, the Potters, the Stearns, the Chartiers. You know, it was all families coming in with a member of the family driving. So something's transitioning and changing. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
I don't know. I think it's one of them deals where, you know, the groups of people get in and they don't want to leave the sport. They don't necessarily want to race anymore, but you know, they just want to continue to keep supporting the sport. And I've even noticed it. If I don't go to a race, which I've been to pretty much all of them, but maybe the non-USSA races or something like that, I don't go to. And it's like, you're always wondering, how's it going? You know, who's winning, whatever, you know, it's one of them things that just gets burned in your brain. And then, like now, like with us, you know, we're like still going, you know, and supporting and everything. And, I don't know, it's Dale too, for sure. He is a diehard, you know, racer. He's always going to do whatever it takes to be there. Like, he just loves it. And it's kind of like that same, they're all kind of that same generation, like where my dad was racing and stuff. And, you know, snowmobile racing was so big that they just love it. And that's, you know, they want to continue it, and they want to keep making sure that it's still there for people to enjoy. And in recent years, especially now with the new champ rules, it seems like, people are more apt to get out in to start racing. Before with the mod motors, it was, well, if you didn't have the motor or this motor, why even try? And now with the stock motors, with the pipes and stuff, it's like every year it's more and more and more and more. So that's awesome. It was right away, I was a little bit skeptical with the rule. After the first few races and see how many people that were out racing, there's no doubt this is the way to go.
Sure. So tell everybody a little bit about how does driver selection happen? I mean, obviously Blaine Stevenson comes to you with a sled that he's driven. He's got a couple world championships under his belt. You live close to each other. This partnership forms. I don't really care how the ownership of the sled transfers from one party to another, but Blaine makes sense. And then Tom Olson from Lodi, Wisconsin, miles from you, comes out as the next driver of a Wahl Brothers race sled. Logistically, that's got to be a challenge. How do you test and tune with a driver that's 10 hours away from you or whatever he happens to be? So how do you select, or how do you pick? And I guess I piggy that back with, there's Dale Ritz in Green Bay and Matt Gady's in someplace by you, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So again,
wow.
Distance and time.
Nobody's by us, Brett. Nobody's up here.
Kind of like Ironwood. Come on.
No, actually, I remember, and I actually didn't know Tom, but we get a break to go watch some of the other races, and the Formula 500s are out there, and I knew Tom, was a good driver, because you'd always see his sled up front and stuff, and I watched what he was doing, and he could come from behind, and it was never like if he hole shot then he won, if he didn't hole shot then he didn't win, and I knew that he wanted to be racing. And I remember we were out in Valcourt, so we're nowhere near home, and here's Tom still there, him and his dad Don, in their little trailer, and they're racing, and I think kind of there it was like, who do we pick, and it's like, well, they're the ones they're putting effort in, and they want to do it, and he really does want to do it. I mean, he would do anything to be in the best shape, and just whatever he can. So
based on the way you're set up now, can you fire a driver?
Yeah, I suppose we can. Actually, I don't know why we couldn't tell him not to show up that weekend. If we really wanted to.
And if let's say that one of those two guys got hurt in some non-racing accident and couldn't race for a couple of weeks, would you hire a replacement, or would you get somebody to drive it, or do you hold the sled off, or what? It's a whole different ballgame. It just feels like, than a family that might say, well, this has always been Johnny's sled, so Johnny's hurt for 2 weeks, he's not racing. But if you're a team owner and you're committed to this sport, do you bring in somebody else to try and run it for a couple of weeks?
I guess if it was just like for a couple of weeks, probably not. If it was the end of the year, maybe. We got a lot of sponsors and people that support us, that, and we want to support oval racing too, and it's important to have as many entries as possible out there. So I would say, given the circumstance of, say there's 4 races left and one of them wouldn't be able to do it, I wouldn't be surprised if, we did. I mean, when I had gotten hurt in the past in racing, we had other people drive my sleds. It's just important to have people that support these events. These guys put so much work into having their events. If nobody shows up, we're gonna lose that. We want to support everyone that goes through all this effort, because and I've said this from the beginning of my racing, like you don't see the amount of work that these tracks put into the event. Like, we show up on a Thursday or Friday, whatever, and we race and we go home. There's, laying the water, there's lining event sponsors, food, getting everything, ready. And we appreciate it so much, the effort that these guys, put into this stuff. And just we gotta support them when we can. And if somebody did get hurt, we gotta try make sure there's a show there for the spectators that show up too to watch the event.
Sure. Do you ever see your team expanding and bringing in a Junior 2 sprinter sled or an F500 sled and trying to bring a driver up and grooming them to replace Blaine or Tom in the future?
I guess that I'm not really sure on. We help out a lot of people during the week.
Right.
I don't think like in-house we would probably ever do that unless maybe it was an immediate family member, which isn't. There is nobody else, so probably not. But we try to offer as much support as we can to all these local guys and stuff. And like this year, with there only being 3 races, we went to some of the, like, we went to Strathcona and Dad was there, and always just try to help out people that are it's kind of a tricky sport because clutching and everything, it just takes a little bit to get to learn, all that stuff and what you need to do. And not everyone needs to do it. And it's not like there is a school or anything where you can go. It's all, you just got to talk to people and go learn on your own,
You just crossed that place we weren't supposed to go. You told me I couldn't mention clutching. Didn't you?
I did see it, and I don't like doing it.
Well, you told me you couldn't talk about it, so
yeah,
I lived up to my end of the deal.
yeah, no. So it's like even people call and talk about like belts and stuff. Well, it's like, well, I was told this is the belt we're gonna run, so now I went and okay, this is our box of belts. All right, so I measured the length and the width, and I cleaned them and did all the prep work, everything, but that's the belt. So now people call and they're like, well, is this the right belt? And I'm like, well, I better go talk to Dad about that and ask him, So
yeah,
it's all the stuff I'm learning. And this year I've taken more of a role in being up front in the office and talking to people, and every day I'm learning. And it's a lot to learn, but somebody's got to learn how to do it. And I know that once, I just get used to talking on the phone and stuff like that. That's kind of the biggest thing I would say that I'm lacking. There's some areas that I'm trying to learn, but luckily Dad is just, it's like he knows everything. He doesn't forget anything. I don't know how he does that.
Yeah, that history is a great thing. So we got just another couple of minutes here. What do you think the future of the sport needs to get a little bit bigger? I mean, everybody knows we're probably not going back to the days of 8 or 10,000 people in the stands at Ironwood or other places, but what's the next step to getting better exposure, better people? I mean, really, if we could do one thing or 2 things, what do you think those are?
Well, I think we're on the right track with this new champ class. That's, with the stock motors and stuff. I would like for the rules to be the same between the 2 classes so that, drivers didn't have to change so much if they wanted to try to jump up to the pro champ class or whatever. I really, really like some of these new beginner classes that like this 440 fan class. Mm-hmm. I see that's a great thing. You can just to get started, you got to learn, you got to start somewhere. And, I was very fortunate to where my family knew everything there is to know about it. If I didn't know anything, I went to a race and saw that and like, I want to try it. Like that's the class, that's awesome. That easy to get into, and you can go out and have fun and learn things and then jump up, to the Formula 500 class and, so on like that.
Yep. Okay. A couple of quick, fun questions for you. These are 1-line answer deals. Steak, chicken, or seafood?
Steak.
What's your favorite genre of music?
I don't know, country or rock, I suppose.
All right. What's the best sled you've ever raced? What's your favorite sled from your history?
Oh boy. I don't know. There was one sled, and I don't know what year it was. It was and this is another thing, people calling, this is your whatever 2012 sled. And I can't remember. There were so many sleds and so much changing and developing. It's like, I can never remember, but there was one sled. It was a 116 track in that sled. And, I don't know, that sled in the rough, like I swear I could run that thing wide open wherever we were. The only time I swear we lost was when the track would fall off it. And, we were so many races we gave up because of that. And now we pretty much just have gotten away from that. And we should have stuck with it because that sled, I don't know, there was something about that. And that one's probably got to be my favorite. There was that sled. And then there was one that's more like our new, the ones that Blaine and Tom are driving. That I only raced, I think, 3 times, and it was at the end of the year. It was something we were testing, and I think I got a second and 2 firsts of that out in Valcourt and Eganville, and then we had started the next year, and Brandon wrecked his sled, and then Brandon stole my sled because I had gotten a new sled, but the new sled didn't work like that sled. So I still hold that against Brandon. You took that away from me.
Well, now we have it on record. One final question. Our long-term friendship depends on this. Reese's Peanut Butter Cup or Snickers?
Reese's.
Nice. See, I knew we'd get along. So, Dustin, it's been great to spend a few minutes with you talking about the sport that we both love. Hopefully, the future holds some great things. I know the USSA Pro Star Series is working hard on some stuff this off season, really trying to get some things in line going forward. So it'd be really nice if we could run a bunch of races next year and put a lot of laps on people's sleds and make everybody happy. So, but thank you. Thanks to Wahl Brothers Racing for supporting the racing community and all the stuff you do for us as well. Any last words before we head off for the evening?
No, thank you for putting up with us whiny drivers.
Someday I'll get my reward.
Oh, wait, I'm not a whiny driver anymore. I don't know what I'd be considered now. Now I'm just a whiner.
Yeah, no, I look forward to that whining in person, let me tell you. So, thanks, Dustin. Have a good evening.
All right. Thank you, Brett.